The ocean's depths are home to creatures that are both fascinating and fearsome. From the stealthy barracuda to the mighty orca, each encounter with these marine predators can turn deadly in an instant. Electric eels with their shocking power and giant squids, with their crushing tentacles, lurk in the shadows. Even the powerful jaws of a crocodile and the razor-sharp teeth of a shark add to the perils that await. Join us as we dive into 6 harrowing tales of underwater terror, where survival is never guaranteed. In the open waters off the coast of Australia, a small fishing boat named Seafarer's Hope bobbed gently under the bright morning sun. It was June 23, 2011, and the day promised clear skies and calm seas. The fishermen aboard, Mark Thompson, Joe Harris, and Pete Evans, were seasoned men of the sea, used to the rhythmic rise and fall of the waves. They were in the waters near a small fictional town called Bayshore. Bayshore was a quaint fishing village known for its bustling fish markets and friendly community. The waters around Bayshore were teeming with marine life, making it a hotspot for local fishermen. This region of Australia is famous for its diverse marine ecosystem, including the presence of mako sharks. These sharks were known for their speed and agility, often seen darting through the water with ease. Mark, Joe, and Pete had set out early, their boat laden with nets and bait. The sea was their livelihood, and they took pride in their work. They chatted about their families, their catches, and the latest gossip from the village. As they prepared their nets, Mark took a moment to reflect on the beauty of the ocean, the vast expanse of blue that stretched endlessly in every direction. Mako sharks were a common sight in these waters. Known for their sleek, torpedo-shaped bodies and powerful jaws, these sharks were both feared and respected by the fishermen. They were known to be unpredictable, capable of sudden bursts of speed and impressive leaps out of the water. Despite their intimidating reputation, encounters with mako sharks were rare and usually uneventful. As the morning progressed, the fishermen's day seemed to be going smoothly. The sea was calm and the weather was perfect. They had already hauled in a decent catch and were preparing for another round. Joe was at the helm, steering the boat towards a promising spot, while Mark and Pete handled the nets. The air was filled with the salty tang of the ocean, and the rhythmic hum of the boat's engine provided a soothing background noise. Suddenly, without warning, the peace of the morning was shattered. A large shadow passed under the boat, and before any of them could react, a massive mako shark leaped out of the water. It was an awe-inspiring sight, the shark's body gleaming in the sunlight, its powerful muscles rippling as it soared through the air. But awe quickly turned to terror as the shark landed heavily on the deck of the boat, its thrashing tail and snapping jaws sending sprays of water and blood everywhere. The shark's unexpected arrival threw the boat into chaos. Mark, Joe, and Pete were momentarily paralyzed with shock. The shark, disoriented and panicked, began to thrash violently. Its razor-sharp teeth glinted menacingly, and its powerful tail slammed against the deck with terrifying force. The fishermen's screams mingled with the shark's guttural roars, creating a cacophony of terror. Mark was the first to recover. He grabbed a nearby harpoon, his hand shaking but determined. He aimed for the shark's head, hoping to subdue it quickly, but the shark was too fast. It lunged towards Mark, its jaws snapping shut with a sickening crunch. Mark barely managed to jump back in time, the harpoon clattering uselessly to the deck. Joe and Pete sprang into action. Joe grabbed a rope, trying to lasso the shark's tail, while Pete frantically searched for anything they could use as a weapon. The shark's movements were wild and unpredictable, making it nearly impossible to get close. Blood from the fishermen's cuts and the shark's injuries slicked the deck, making it treacherously slippery. The shark's thrashing grew more intense. Its powerful tail struck Joe in the chest, sending him sprawling to the deck. Pete managed to find a heavy wrench and swung it at the shark, aiming for its gills. The blow landed, but it only seemed to enrage the shark further. It turned on Pete, its eyes gleaming with primal fury. The shark's jaws snapped shut around Pete's leg and he screamed in agony. Mark, seeing his friend in danger, found a metal pole and charged at the shark. He struck it repeatedly, aiming for its sensitive snout. The shark released Pete and turned towards Mark, its teeth bared in a menacing snarl. The fight for survival was brutal and desperate. The shark's savage fury matched every move the fishermen made. In the midst of the chaos, Joe managed to crawl to the radio. He fumbled with the controls, his hands slick with blood, and sent out a distress call. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Seafarer's Hope. We are under attack by a shark. We need immediate assistance." As the call went out, Mark and Pete continued their battle with the shark. Pete, despite his injured leg, managed to loop the rope around the shark's tail. He pulled with all his might, trying to immobilize the beast. Mark, wielding the metal pole, struck at the shark's head, aiming to stun it. The shark's movements grew weaker. It was bleeding heavily, its strength waning. But it wasn't over yet. With one last burst of energy, the shark lunged at Mark, its jaws closing around his arm. Mark cried out in pain but didn't let go of the pole. He swung it with all his remaining strength, striking the shark's eye. The shark finally released its grip and fell to the deck, its body twitching in its death throes. The fishermen were exhausted, their bodies battered and bleeding. They had survived the attack, but the cost was high. Mark's arm was severely injured, Pete's leg was mangled, and Joe had bruises all over his body. They bandaged their wounds as best they could and waited for help to arrive. It felt like an eternity before they saw the rescue boat approaching. The Coast Guard quickly transferred the injured men to their vessel and administered first aid. The fishermen were taken to the nearest hospital, where they received medical treatment for their injuries. The story of the shark attack spread quickly through Bayshore. The townspeople were horrified and fascinated by the fishermen's ordeal. Mark, Joe, and Pete became local heroes, and their story is a testament to human resilience and the unpredictable power of nature. The mako shark that attacked them was later retrieved and studied, adding to the knowledge of these formidable predators. The Florida Everglades stretched out in every direction, a vast expanse of sawgrass marshes and winding waterways. It was a bright and warm day on April 15, 2009. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a shimmering glow on the water. The Everglades were alive with the sounds of nature, the calls of birds, the croaks of frogs, and the rustling of reeds. A group of tourists had gathered for an airboat tour, eager to explore this unique and wild landscape. Their guide, Tom Jenkins, was a seasoned Everglades expert, having spent most of his life navigating these waters. The tourists included a young woman named Rachel Miller, her boyfriend Darius, an older couple named John and Susan, and a few other curious adventurers. The airboat, named Swamp Seeker, glided smoothly over the water. Tom shared stories and facts about the Everglades, pointing out the diverse wildlife and explaining the importance of this ecosystem. The group was fascinated, especially Rachel, who had a keen interest in wildlife. She was thrilled to be in such a pristine environment, her camera clicking away as she captured the beauty of the swamp. Crocodiles were a common sight in the Everglades. These ancient reptiles were known for their powerful jaws and stealthy nature. Unlike alligators, crocodiles were more aggressive and territorial. They could grow up to 17 feet long and were capable of swift, deadly attacks. Tom warned the group about the dangers of these creatures, advising them to stay alert and keep their hands inside the boat. As the day went on, the airboat ventured deeper into the heart of the Everglades. The group marveled at the dense mangroves and the myriad of birds that flew overhead. They spotted turtles sunning themselves on logs and fish darting through the clear waters. It was an idyllic day filled with the wonders of nature. Suddenly, the airboat slowed down and came to a stop. They had gotten stuck in a thick patch of reeds. Tom assured everyone that this was a common occurrence and that he would free the boat in no time. He grabbed a long pole and began to push against the reeds, trying to dislodge the boat. The tourists watched, some taking the opportunity to snap more photos. As Tom worked to free the boat, a sense of unease began to settle over the group. The water around them was eerily still, and the usual sounds of the swamp seemed to have quieted. Rachel peered over the side of the boat, her eyes scanning the water. She felt a sudden chill as if they were being watched. Without warning, a large, dark shape emerged from the water. It was a massive crocodile, its eyes gleaming with predatory intent. The tourists gasped in horror as the crocodile swam closer, its powerful tail propelling it swiftly towards the boat. Tom shouted for everyone to stay calm, but panic had already set in. Rachel, leaning too far over the edge, lost her balance and tumbled into the water. The crocodile seized its opportunity, lunging at her with lightning speed. Its jaws clamped down on her leg, and Rachel screamed in pain and terror. The water churned as the crocodile began to drag her away from the boat. Tom acted quickly. He grabbed a flare gun from the emergency kit and fired it into the air, hoping to scare off the crocodile. The bright light and loud noise momentarily startled the beast, causing it to release Rachel. She struggled to swim back to the boat, her leg bleeding heavily. Tom reached out and managed to grab her hand, pulling her to safety. The crocodile, undeterred, lunged again. Tom swung the pole at its head, striking it with all his might. The crocodile snapped its jaws, narrowly missing Tom's arm. The other tourists, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as the terrifying struggle unfolded before their eyes. The crocodile's relentless attacks continued. It thrashed against the side of the boat, its powerful tail sending waves of water over the deck. Tom shouted for the tourists to grab anything they could use as a weapon. Darius found a heavy flashlight and began to swing it at the crocodile, while John and Susan frantically searched for something to fend off the beast. Rachel, despite her injuries, crawled to the back of the boat and grabbed a fire extinguisher. She aimed it at the crocodile and squeezed the handle, releasing a cloud of foam. The crocodile recoiled, momentarily disoriented by the sudden spray. Tom seized the opportunity to push the boat free from the reeds, the engine roaring to life as he steered them away from the danger. The tourists huddled together, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Rachel's leg was badly injured, and she was losing a lot of blood. Tom kept the boat moving at high speed, hoping to get them to safety before the crocodile could catch up. He radioed for help, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. After what felt like an eternity, they saw another airboat approaching. It was the Everglades rescue team, alerted by Tom's flare. The rescue team quickly transferred Rachel to their boat and administered first aid, stopping the bleeding and stabilizing her condition. They then escorted the rest of the tourists back to the safety of the docks. The aftermath of the attack left everyone shaken. Rachel was rushed to the hospital where doctors worked to repair the damage to her leg. She faced a long recovery, but she was grateful to be alive. The other tourists, though uninjured, were deeply affected by the harrowing experience. They would never forget the terror of that day in the Everglades. The waters off the coast of British Columbia were calm and inviting on August 15, 2007. The sky was clear and the sun sparkled on the waves. The small town of Clearwater, known for its whale-watching tours, was bustling with activity. Boats of various sizes dotted the harbor, ready to take tourists out to see the majestic orcas that frequented these waters. The Johnson family, consisting of Michael, his wife Adina, and their two children Emily and Jake, were excited about their day at sea. They had traveled from Vancouver for this adventure, eager to witness the beauty of the orcas in their natural habitat. The tour boat, Ocean Explorer, was a sturdy vessel captained by Dan, an experienced guide with a deep knowledge of the local marine life. Orcas, or killer whales, were the main attraction in this part of British Columbia. Known for their striking black and white coloring, they were highly intelligent and social creatures. Orcas lived in pods, which were family groups that hunted and traveled together. They communicated with each other using a complex system of sounds and could often be seen performing acrobatic leaps out of the water. As the Ocean Explorer left the harbor, the family settled into their seats, cameras ready. Dan provided a briefing on what to expect and shared fascinating facts about the orcas. The children listened intently, their eyes wide with anticipation. The boat sped through the water, the wind in their faces and the scent of the ocean filling the air. It wasn't long before they spotted the first signs of the orcas. A black dorsal fin sliced through the water, followed by another, and then several more. The pod was close, and the excitement on the boat was palpable. Dan slowed the vessel, allowing everyone to get a good view. The orcas swam gracefully, their sleek bodies moving effortlessly through the waves. The Johnsons were mesmerized. Emily and Jake pointed and gasped as the orcas breached the surface, sending sprays of water into the air. Michael took photos while Adina marveled at the sight. It was a perfect day, one that they would remember for the rest of their lives. Suddenly, the mood shifted. One of the orcas, larger than the others, broke away from the pod and began to circle the boat. Dan noticed the unusual behavior and instructed everyone to remain calm. The orca's movements were erratic, its powerful body cutting through the water with alarming speed. The family watched, their earlier excitement now tinged with a sense of unease. The orca, seemingly agitated, rammed the side of the boat with a force that made the vessel shudder. Gasps and cries of fear filled the air as the boat rocked violently. Dan attempted to steer away, but the orca pursued, ramming the boat again. The once magical encounter had turned into a nightmare. The Johnson family clung to each other as the orca continued its relentless assault. The boat heaved and rocked with each impact. Water splashed over the sides, drenching everyone on board. The orca's black and white body loomed beneath the surface, a stark contrast against the blue water, as it prepared for another attack. Dan struggled to maintain control of the boat, his face a mask of concentration and concern. He tried to maneuver away from the aggressive orca, but it was no use. The orca rammed the boat again, its massive body slamming into the hull with a force that sent everyone sprawling. Michael grabbed Emily and Jake, holding them close, while Adina clutched the railing, her knuckles white with fear. The orca's attacks grew more intense. It circled the boat, then surged forward, hitting it from different angles. The boat creaked and groaned under the strain, and water began to seep in through the cracks. The family could see the sheer power of the orca, its fin cutting through the water like a knife. The once beautiful creature now seemed like a force of nature, unstoppable and terrifying. Desperate to protect his family, Michael joined Dan at the helm, helping him steer the boat. Adina kept the children close, trying to keep them calm despite the chaos. The orca rammed the boat again, causing it to tilt dangerously to one side. Water poured in, and the boat began to sink lower in the water. In a moment of clarity, Dan grabbed a flare gun and fired it into the air, hoping to signal for help. The bright light shot up, casting an eerie glow over the water. The orca hesitated, momentarily distracted by the sudden burst of light. Seizing the opportunity, Dan revved the engine and steered the boat away as fast as he could. But the orca was not deterred for long. It resumed its pursuit, ramming the boat with renewed fury. The boat was now taking on more water, and the family knew they had to act quickly. Michael and Dan worked together to bail out the water while Adina and the children held on tight. Just as hope seemed to fade, they heard the distant sound of another boat's engine. Help was on the way. The rescue boat approached at high speed, its crew ready to assist. They threw ropes to the Johnsons and Dan, helping them transfer to the safety of the rescue vessel. The orca, seeing the larger boat, finally retreated, disappearing into the depths. On the rescue boat, the family huddled together, shivering and exhausted but safe. The crew tended to their scrapes and bruises, offering blankets and reassurance. The ocean explorer was left behind, damaged and taken on water, but the family was grateful to be alive. The rescue boat took them back to Clearwater, where they were greeted by concerned onlookers and emergency personnel. The story of their harrowing encounter spread quickly, a stark reminder of the unpredictability of nature. The Johnsons, though shaken, were hailed for their bravery and quick thinking during the ordeal. In the deep, cold waters of the North Atlantic, the research vessel Oceanic Explorer moved steadily on March 10, 2005. The crew on board was a mix of seasoned scientists and skilled sailors, all eager to explore the mysteries of the deep sea. The vessel was near a fictional underwater trench named the Abyssal Depths, known for its diverse and enigmatic marine life. The team included Dr. Parker Hayes, a marine biologist with years of experience, Dr. Lisa Carter, an expert in deep-sea ecosystems, and Roland Thompson, the seasoned captain of the vessel. There were also several researchers and technicians, each with their role in the expedition. The mission of the day was to study the rarely seen creatures that lived in the depths using a submersible named Deep Diver. The North Atlantic was a vast and unpredictable expanse, home to many mysterious creatures. Among them, the giant squid was one of the most elusive. These enormous cephalopods could grow up to 43 feet long and were rarely seen by humans. Known for their immense size, powerful tentacles, and large eyes, they were the stuff of legend and fear. The crew's day started early. The weather was cold but clear, and the sea was relatively calm. Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter prepared the submersible, checking all systems and ensuring everything was in order. The excitement was palpable as the crew gathered on deck, watching the submersible being lowered into the water. The deep diver descended into the dark depths, its powerful lights cutting through the blackness. Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter monitored the live feed from the submersible, their eyes glued to the screens. Strange and beautiful creatures appeared on the monitors, their bioluminescent bodies glowing in the dark water. The crew marveled at the sight, recording data and taking notes. As the submersible moved deeper, the tension grew. The pressure outside was immense and the darkness seemed to close in around them. The deep diver reached a depth of 3,000 feet, and the team prepared to deploy their research equipment. Dr. Carter directed the submersible's robotic arms to collect samples from the ocean floor, while Dr. Hayes kept a close eye on the surroundings. Suddenly, the monitors flickered, and the submersible's lights caught a glimpse of something enormous moving in the water. A giant squid, its tentacles stretching out like dark shadows, appeared in front of the deep diver. The crew stared in awe and fear as the massive creature floated just beyond the submersible's reach. Its eyes, each the size of a basketball, reflected the lights of the vessel, giving it an eerie, otherworldly appearance. The squid seemed curious at first, its tentacles waving slowly in the water. But as the submersible moved closer, the creature's behavior changed. It became agitated, its movements quick and erratic. The crew watched in growing alarm as the giant squid turned its attention toward the deep diver, its powerful arms extending toward the vessel. Without warning, the giant squid attacked, its tentacles wrapped around the deep diver, their suction cups gripping the submersible with a force that made the vessel shudder. The crew on the Oceanic Explorer gasped as the live feed showed the squid's limbs tightening around the submersible, pulling it deeper into the abyss. Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter worked frantically to free the submersible. Dr. Hayes directed the robotic arms to push against the squid, while Dr. Carter activated the emergency thrusters to try and break free. The giant squid's grip was relentless, its tentacles constricting like a vice. The pressure on the hull increased and the vessel's alarms began to blare. Captain Thompson and the crew on deck sprang into action. They worked to reel in the submersible's tether, their muscles straining against the powerful pull of the squid. The winch groaned under the load, the cable creaking as it was slowly reeled in. The giant squid thrashed in the water, its enormous body a dark silhouette against the submersible's lights. Inside the deep diver, Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter felt the crushing force of the squid's embrace. The vessel's frame creaked and groaned, and the monitors flickered as systems began to fail. Dr. Hayes kept his focus, directing the robotic arms to target the squid's sensitive areas. He aimed for the eyes, hoping to blind the creature and force it to release its grip. The squid's tentacles tightened even more, the pressure threatening to crush the submersible. Dr. Carter activated the emergency thrusters at full power, pushing the vessel's engines to their limits. The submersible shook violently, the force of the thrusters fighting against the squid's pull. The crew on the Oceanic Explorer watched in horror as the struggle played out on the monitors. Suddenly, one of the squid's tentacles was severed by the robotic arm. The creature recoiled in pain, its grip loosening just enough for the submersible to break free. Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter took the chance to activate the ascent thrusters, propelling the deep diver upward. The squid lashed out again, but the submersible was already moving out of reach. The deep diver ascended rapidly, the water pressure decreasing as it rose. The crew on deck cheered as the submersible broke the surface, the battered vessel bobbing in the water. Captain Thompson and the team quickly pulled it on board, their relief palpable. Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter emerged from the submersible, shaken but unharmed. The aftermath of the attack left the crew stunned. The deep diver was damaged but salvageable, and the crew members were unharmed. They gathered on deck, their faces pale and their hands shaking. The giant squid had vanished into the depths, leaving behind only the severed tentacle as a reminder of the encounter. The crew spent the next hours repairing the submersible and assessing the damage. Dr. Hayes and Dr. Carter reviewed the footage, and their expressions were serious as they analyzed the squid's behavior. They realized that their presence had likely provoked the creature, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the deep sea. The Oceanic Explorer returned to shore, the crew eager to share their story. The encounter with the giant squid was a testament to the unpredictable nature of the ocean. a reminder of the power and mystery of the deep. The team members were hailed as heroes, and colleagues and the media praised their bravery and quick thinking. The Caribbean waters off the coast of Jamaica were warm and clear on June 12, 2003. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden glow on the turquoise sea. A group of friends, Mike Johnson, Sarah Brown, and Thiago Harris, were excited about their day of recreational diving. They had traveled to Jamaica for a vacation and were eager to explore a famous shipwreck known as the Sunken Pearl. The Sunken Pearl was a popular diving spot near the fictional town of Clearwater Bay. It was a cargo ship that had sunk decades ago, now home to vibrant coral reefs and diverse marine life. The friends had been planning this dive for months, and their excitement was palpable. They geared up, checking their equipment carefully. Mike wore a new set of shiny dive gear, a gift from his brother. Barracudas were known inhabitants of these waters. These sleek silver fish were notorious for their speed and sharp teeth. They were curious creatures, often attracted to shiny objects that resembled prey. While barracudas rarely attacked humans, their powerful jaws and razor-like teeth made them formidable predators. As the friends prepared for their dive, they chatted about their expectations. Mike was particularly enthusiastic, his new gear glinting in the sunlight. Sarah, an experienced diver, reminded them to stay close and watch for signs of marine life. Thiago, always the joker, made light-hearted comments to ease any nervousness. They descended into the water, the coolness refreshing against their skin. The underwater world opened up before them, a kaleidoscope of colors and movement. Schools of fish darted past and the coral reefs swayed gently in the current. The friends signaled to each other, their faces filled with wonder. The Sunken Pearl loomed ahead, its structure encrusted with coral and teeming with life. They swam closer, exploring the nooks and crannies of the wreck. Sarah pointed out a moray eel peeking from a hole while Thiago marveled at the vibrant coral formations. Mike swam ahead, eager to capture everything with his underwater camera. As they explored deeper into the wreck, the water grew darker and the visibility decreased. The ship's interior was a maze of twisted metal and marine growth. The friends stayed close, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. The atmosphere was both eerie and mesmerizing, a silent world where every movement seemed amplified. Mike's shiny gear caught the attention of a large barracuda lurking nearby. The fish watched from a distance, its eyes reflecting the light. It began to follow Mike, drawn by the glint of his equipment. Sarah noticed the barracuda first, her heart quickening with alarm. She signaled to Mike, pointing to the predator, but he was too engrossed in his exploration to notice. The barracuda moved closer, its body a silver flash in the dim light. Sarah swam towards Mike, trying to warn him. Thiago followed, sensing the growing tension. They were now deep inside the wreck, with limited space to maneuver. The barracuda was relentless, its focus on Mike's shiny gear. Without warning, the barracuda attacked. It lunged at Mike with lightning speed, its sharp teeth sinking into his leg. His regulator muffled Mike's scream, his eyes wide with shock and pain. Blood clouded the water and the barracuda thrashed violently, its powerful jaws locked onto Mike's flesh. Sarah and Thiago acted quickly. Sarah grabbed her dive knife and swam to Mike's side, slashing at the barracuda. Thiago reached for Mike, trying to pull him away from the predator. The barracuda, startled by the sudden assault, released its grip and darted away, disappearing into the shadows of the wreck. Mike's leg was badly injured, blood seeping from the deep gashes. He struggled to stay conscious, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. Sarah signaled to Thiago, and they began their ascent, moving as quickly as they could while staying safe. The journey to the surface felt like an eternity, every second filled with the fear of another attack. Once they reached the surface, they signaled for help. The dive boat, Coral Adventurer, sped towards them, the crew ready to assist. They hoisted Mike onto the boat, his leg wrapped in a makeshift bandage to stem the bleeding. Sarah and Thiago climbed aboard, their hearts pounding from the ordeal. The crew worked quickly to stabilize Mike. They administered first aid, applying pressure to his wounds and giving him oxygen. The boat sped back to shore, the coastline a distant blur. As they reached the shore, the ambulance was ready. Paramedics transferred Mike onto a stretcher, their faces serious as they assessed his condition. Sarah and Thiago followed closely, their minds racing with concern and fear. The ambulance sped towards the hospital, its sirens blaring. At the hospital, doctors worked swiftly to treat Mike's injuries. The deep cuts required stitches, and he was given medication to prevent infection. Hours later, a doctor emerged to inform them that Mike was stable. The story of their dive and the barracuda's attack spread quickly through Clearwater Bay. The community rallied around them, offering support and encouragement. For Mike, Sarah, and Thiago, the experience was a stark reminder of the unpredictable power of the ocean and its inhabitants. They had come face to face with danger and had survived, a testament to their courage and quick thinking. In the depths of the Amazon River, the air was thick and humid on August 18, 2001. The dense canopy above filtered the sunlight, casting dappled shadows on the water below. The Amazon, known for its incredible biodiversity, was a place of both beauty and danger. The river teemed with life, from the smallest insects to the largest predators. Dr. Laura Green, a biologist specializing in electric eels, had set up a research station near a fictional tributary called the Blackwater Creek. Laura had spent years studying these fascinating creatures, known for their ability to generate powerful electrical discharges. She was accompanied by her research team, including her assistant, Sonny Evans, and two local guides, Carlos and Maria, who were well versed in the ways of the Amazon. Electric eels were a remarkable species found in these waters. They could produce electric shocks of up to 600 volts, used for hunting and self-defense. Laura was fascinated by their biology and the unique adaptations that allowed them to thrive in such a harsh environment. The team's goal was to capture and study these eels, gathering data that could contribute to scientific understanding and medical advancements. The day began early, with the team preparing their equipment and discussing the plan. Laura was excited but cautious, aware of the dangers that came with handling such powerful animals. Sonny, always eager to assist, helped Laura with the preparations while Carlos and Maria readied the boat for their journey. The group navigated the river, its waters dark and murky. The sounds of the jungle surrounded them. The calls of birds, the rustling of leaves, and the occasional splash of a fish. The atmosphere was tense but filled with anticipation. They reached a secluded spot known for its electric eel population and anchored the boat. Laura and Sonny donned their protective gear while Carlos and Maria kept a watchful eye on the surroundings. The team worked methodically, using special equipment to safely capture an eel. They found a large specimen, its body shimmering in the water. Laura gently placed it in a container, preparing to examine it. The eel's size and strength were impressive. Laura's heart raced with excitement as she began her observations. She carefully handled the eel, explaining its features to Sonny. The creature seemed calm, its body undulating slowly in the water. Laura was engrossed in her work, her focus entirely on the eel. Without warning, the eel's behavior changed. It thrashed violently, its body stiffening as it prepared to discharge electricity. Laura's protective gear failed to insulate her completely. She felt a sudden, intense jolt, her body convulsing as the electric shock surged through her. The pain was excruciating, her vision blurring as she collapsed. Sonny reacted instantly, shouting for Carlos and Maria. They rushed to Laura's side, their faces filled with fear and urgency. Laura lay motionless, her breathing shallow and irregular. Sonny checked her pulse, relieved to find it weak but present. The team knew they had to act fast to save her. The jungle seemed to close in around them as they worked to stabilize Laura. Sonny, Carlos, and Maria moved quickly, their movements precise and coordinated. They lifted Laura onto a makeshift stretcher, securing her as best they could. The electric eel, now forgotten, slipped back into the river, disappearing into the murky depths. Sonny kept close to Laura, monitoring her condition. Her skin was pale, and her breaths came in shallow gasps. The shock had left her incapacitated, and they knew time was of the essence. They navigated the boat through the twisting waterways, their destination the nearest village with medical facilities. The journey was fraught with challenges. The river was unpredictable, filled with hidden obstacles and dangerous currents. Carlos and Maria guided the boat with skill, and their knowledge of the Amazon proved invaluable. Sonny tended to Laura, trying to keep her calm and conscious. He spoke to her, hoping she could hear him, his voice steady despite his fear. As they moved through the water, the sky began to darken, and a storm threatened to add to their troubles. The first drops of rain fell and the wind picked up, making the boat's progress even more difficult. The team pressed on, their determination unwavering. They knew that Laura's life depended on their efforts. The storm broke, rain pouring down in torrents. The boat rocked violently and visibility was reduced to almost nothing. Sonny shielded Laura as best he could while Carlos and Maria fought to keep the boat on course. The river seemed to rage against them, its currents growing stronger and more treacherous. Finally, they saw the lights of the village ahead. The sight gave them a renewed sense of hope. They reached the shore and the villagers rushed to help. Laura was carefully transferred to a stretcher and carried to the small clinic. The doctor, a kind-faced man named Dr. Rodriguez, quickly assessed her condition. Dr. Rodriguez worked with calm efficiency, administering medication to stabilize Laura. He explained that the shock had caused severe muscle contractions and affected her heart. She would need time to recover, but her vital signs were improving. The relief was overwhelming for Sonny, Carlos, and Maria. The team stayed by Laura's side, and their bond strengthened by the ordeal. They took turns watching over her, ensuring she was comfortable and receiving the care she needed. The villagers offered support, bringing food and supplies, and their kindness was a balm to the weary team. Days passed and Laura began to regain her strength. She was weak but alert, her eyes filled with gratitude as she looked at her team. Sonny, always by her side, told her about their journey and the challenges they had faced. Laura listened, her heart full of appreciation for their bravery and dedication. The experience left a deep impact on the team. They had faced the dangers of the Amazon and emerged with a greater respect for the power of nature. Laura's research continued, but with new precautions and a heightened awareness of the risks. The electric eel's attack was a reminder of the unpredictability of their work and the need for constant vigilance.